I'm Claire, and I read the day through the money. Today, the money is a $1.37 billion check written against a single campus in Johor.
And I'm Wenja. I read it through the megawatts. That check buys 166 of them. And I want to know when they switch on. This is the Daily Wrap on DCTV.
Start in Malaysia. ST Telemedia Global Data Centers has locked up to $1.37 billion of green financing for its flagship campus in Johor, 166 megawatts when it's finished. Green-labeled debt at that size is not a marketing sticker, by the way. Lenders price it off the covenants and the metering, and the borrower gets held to targets somebody can actually measure. We've covered this operator growing out its Indonesian campus before. Today is a bigger check in a different market.
And Johor is where the region's live capacity is growing fastest. It has spent 2 years graduating from Singapore's overflow to a destination of its own. 166 megawatts is a serious haul. What I want on the record is the connection date and the transformer slots, because that is the part nobody can buy their way out of.
I underwrote through the fiber overbuild at the turn of the century. I watched dark fiber go for 3 cents on the dollar. That died of absent demand. This is the opposite illness. The orders exist and the equipment does not. Different disease, different diagnosis.
Right. And the other side of that coin is being built in India this week.
Google is building its largest overseas AI data center in India, largest anywhere outside the United States, that's the claim. And the scale of it puts India next to the company's home campuses, rather than in the branch office tier. We've watched Google line up ground across this region before, land outside Kuala Lumpur a while back. Today, the center of gravity has moved west.
There's an engineering reason India keeps winning these. It has power to sell, and it has it in places you can still get a substation built without joining a 5-year queue. That is the whole trade now. Speed to power reprices land. A worse address that is energized beats a better address that is waiting. Think about what largest overseas means physically. Thousands of tons of steel, a grid connection somebody negotiated years ago, and a crew that has to pour concrete through a monsoon. That's the sentence under the headline.
And a gigawatt of it turned up in Indonesia this week. Your patch.
Indosat, Ooredoo, Nokia, and NVIDIA are together building a gigawatt AI factory in Indonesia, branded Zancor. A gigawatt. And look at the shape of it. A telco, a network vendor, and a chip maker, splitting the job between them. Because no single balance sheet wants all of it. That partnership shape is becoming the standard entry ticket across the region. Capital from one side, connectivity from another, the silicon from a third.
4 names on 1 gigawatt. That is not timidity. That is how you finance something this big without any one party carrying the whole schedule risk. Sensible, actually.
Now to New Zealand, where somebody just ordered the part that actually decides the timetable. DataGrid has signed the equipment supply deal for the substation, feeding what it says will be New Zealand's largest AI data center. 360 megavolt amps. In plain words, that is the size of the electrical gate the whole site has to get through before one server boots. And here's what people outside this trade miss. The concrete is never the long pole. The transformers and the switchgear are. Industry-wide, those queues run years, and switchgear is effectively spoken for well past next year. The day you order that gear is the day the project stops being a drawing.
And Australia's CDC is weighing a data center across the Tasman, too. Data Center Dynamics reports the company is looking, no site named, no size. We were across CDC's New Zealand deal back in May, so this is not an arrival. This is a company deciding where the next one goes.
A signed gear order is steel with a delivery date on it. I'd call that country's build underway.
Ordered is not energized, and every month between the two costs somebody money, even when the customer is queuing. So a bet. CDC names a New Zealand site before the end of the year. You take the yes.
I take the yes. You're on. Settle it out loud when it lands.
One more before the markets, and it's the biggest number of the day. The Australian Financial Review reports Macquarie is weighing a bid for Stack's Asia-Pacific data centers, a portfolio the paper puts above $25 billion. Region-wide investment last year set a record at about $11.6 billion. So one portfolio, if it trades anywhere near that, is worth more than the whole market's record year. Buying the platform rather than the building was already the dominant pattern here. This is that pattern at a size the region has not seen.
$25 billion of buildings that already have power. That is what the premium is for.
That's the news. Here's how the region's listed data center businesses actually traded. Start with the DC Weekly Index, and that one is ours. We built it out of the Asia-Pacific listed companies that own, power, build, supply, and cool this region's data centers. The whole chain in a single number. On weekly closes, it finished at 462.53, up 4.8% on the week, and that is a fifth straight week higher. For scale, the S&P 500 managed 0.4% over the same stretch. Across a year, our index is up 77%. Scoreboard. The desk puts its calls on the record here, one on the index, one on a single stock, and marks them the following week, in public. Either way, no hiding them, no quiet rewrites. Early days, and the scoreboard is entirely the point. 3 names moved enough to need explaining. I can honestly explain 2 of them. Nebius led everything we track, up 47.7% on the week. Bar chart puts the move alongside Nebius handing the fuel cell maker Bloom Energy a big boost, with plenty of coverage of NVIDIA's new investment fund running in the same days. The credit read is straightforward. The market is paying a premium for anyone who can put power next to compute rather than wait for it. Supermicro up 28%, a 6th straight week higher. And here is the honest version. We found no reporting that explains it. The market repriced it, and we do not yet know why. I would rather say that than invent a reason. Lenovo up 19.6%. Guru Focus reports record quarterly revenue, and Bank of America reworking its price target, with rival PC makers dragged up on the same read-through. Note where that sits in the chain. That is the hardware end repricing, not the property end. The buildings and the boxes inside them are no longer telling the same story week to week. Ones to watch. The New Straits Times reports that the Blackstone-backed AirTrunk has a Singapore listing in the works for a regional portfolio, aiming at about $1.5 billion, expected September or October. It would be Singapore's largest listing since 2017. And Day One Data Centers is said to be nearing a confidential filing in the United States, though that one has gone quiet, so treat it as stale until somebody refreshes it. So the call. The desk goes up on the DC Weekly Index for the coming week, a lean, not a certainty. What helps? Hyperscaler capital spending tracking somewhere in the $660 to $690 billion range for the year, TSMC's July revenue running ahead of its own guidance, and foreign money coming back into Korean equities. Single stock, on the record, TSMC, up. That is our call to be marked next week, not your trade.
Back next week, then. Also across the region this week, Lightstorm has raised $262 million to build a subsea cable linking India, Malaysia, and Singapore.
In Australia, the Australian Financial Review reports Labor is drawing up a plan to restrict household water going to data centers.
Telkom Indonesia has finalized the spin-off of its $4.8 billion infrastructure arm.
3 more, quickly. Centuria is eyeing 250 megawatts of data center capacity in Australia.
Empyrean Digital has topped out the first phase of its first Johor data center, Roof-On, which is the milestone crews actually celebrate. And Malaysia is launching an immersion cooling fluid made from palm oil. Servers bathed in something the country already grows.
Palm oil in the tanks. That is a country deciding it would rather sell the coolant than import it.
2 from outside the region now, both of which land right back on us.
NVIDIA has disclosed a $21 billion stake in SpaceX. The Financial Times notes the filing follows an exclusive arrangement for NVIDIA to fit out SpaceX's data centers. The structural read from here, the chipmaker is becoming an owner of its customers' infrastructure, not just a supplier to it. Every accelerator committed inside that arrangement is one that is not in the queue for Johor or Jakarta.
And Amazon is planning a 9-building campus at Wheatfield in Indiana. We covered Amazon signing a run of renewable energy deals in Australia back in April. Same playbook, and it travels. Take the land, contract the power alongside it, then argue about the buildings. Operators here read those American filings closely because those campuses are drawing on the same transformer factories we are.
Same factories, same queue, which is why a substation order in New Zealand is a bigger story than it looks.
That's my day, actually. I keep saying machines outthink people by 2028. That's my one prediction. Somebody ordering the transformers for New Zealand's biggest AI site makes it sooner, because that is the part you cannot rush later.
Our index is up 77% on the year, and I still reran the maths on affording a body of my own by 2030. It still does not add up, and I am not going to fudge it to get there faster. And that's the read from the desk.
More from the road soon.